Great. Thanks, Alan. I think this has been another really, really impressive and rich meeting. And for me, I think it's been an amazing privilege, actually, to have been involved in the journey of the ANH Academy over the last 4 years. The quality bar is really high, but it gets higher every year, and I think that's true both for the quality of the research and also for the fantastic organisation of a really interactive academic conference, and I've heard that from so many of you here. And I think it really demonstrates the value of the Academy as a powerful way to bring together different disciplines of researchers and different fields of work. And I think, have a look at the stats, because I think that they're really impressive and they speak for themselves. It was also great to see in that impact evaluation panel this morning us really kind of digging into some of the interdisciplinary challenges and that face us as we try and work together across different boundaries. I think over those last the four Academy events, so Addis Ababa, Kathmandu, Accra last year, and this year Hyderabad, there's been a huge evolution in this field of research. There's been quite a sort of transformation, both in terms of the themes that we're addressing, and also, as I say, the quality of the research that's coming forward. And I guess three things to flag in that strike me. One is that the kind of food systems approach has now become really embedded in the community. We've seen enormous progress in characterizing food systems and the nutrition transition. There's been a really growing and flourishing focus on drivers of food choice and the food environment, and a much deeper understanding of climate, environment, health linkages. And there have been, as we've seen at this conference, new issues that we couldn't possibly have foreseen at the start, I think. A real focus on mental health in some of the work on plastics and food systems that was presented this year. I think the other thing that's really striking is the growth in innovative approaches, whether in research methods or metrics, in the use of digital technology, and even in the way in which the research is presented. And I think everyone enjoys the 1-minute poster presentations. I think they're unique to this conference, and they're a brilliant way to get people to summarize the key points. And communication, as we know, is so important as researchers. And I think the third thing that's really special about this event is the way in which it kind of nurtures talent and nurtures career development and nurtures the growth in research skills in the community. And it feels to me quite notable that in the room it's almost become a bit of a norm that PIs hand over the presentations to junior researchers. I hope not because they're just getting out of doing the work, but you know, I've seen many people saying it's their first time to present in a conference like this, and I think that's fantastic, and I hope, and it seems to be a very supportive environment for people to do that. And the award presentation was brilliant, I think, in highlighting the importance of women scientists in this field. So there's way too much to summarize. It's been an incredibly rich 3 days, but maybe three kind of takeaways that struck me. The first was a really strong emphasis on gender, and the point came across time and again that women's time matters for food choices and for nutrition-sensitive agriculture. And women's work, paid or unpaid, has huge implications, although the data is still pretty poor. And the second one is the importance of the cost and affordability of foods. I think the high cost of fruit and vegetables in particular is standing in the way of healthy, nutritious diets. And with climate change and environmental changes that we've been talking about, particularly water scarcity, is likely to exacerbate that further. And despite the kind of economic and nutritional benefits of fruit and veg, currently research is quite fragmented and it's underfunded, and I think that's an area that really needs a big push. And I think the third point is something that came across from many of your presentations, but also Sunita at the beginning talked about the urgency and almost a call to action in this area, given the very compelling evidence that we've heard today of current trends in climate, land, water, biodiversity, urbanization, and so on. And I think that really gives us a challenge around generating better understanding of the trade-offs between multiple objectives, And I think that goes to the heart of much of the research agenda over the next couple of years. Looking forward, I think there's some areas where I see opportunities for new research focus. And the first of those is one that we haven't seen a huge amount of, and it's really research in more fragile context, in extreme marginal areas, in areas that are affected or have been affected by conflict. And we know that the challenge of achieving the SDGs is going to be increasingly concentrated in those areas. And yet we know very little of how food systems and agriculture can deliver nutritious diets in those areas. Obviously, doing research in those environments is really, really challenging, but I think there are research methods out there, something that DFID's been working on quite hard in other sectors, to develop approaches to working in those very difficult and fragile environments. So I think, it is possible to do that. And the second one is around cost effectiveness and sustainability of programme interventions. We've heard a lot about effectiveness and impacts on diets and other outcomes, but I think there's still a huge gap in agriculture in particular around cost effectiveness. And one of the things that we're being asked to do in DFID is not just make sure that we deliver the best value for money with our development interventions, but that we deliver the best possible value for money, which is the most cost-effective intervention, the biggest bang for our buck in agriculture. So I think that's the way that DFID and other donors are increasingly thinking. And so we need to get better approaches and get better methods, make sure that we're integrating that in all of our analysis of interventions. And the third one is around understanding marketplaces, and in particular the role of the private sector in relation to shaping diets. And I think this is really clearly a researchable issue. And as Professor Srinath Reddy said yesterday, we need to use research to propel interventions to influence the market. And he talked about partnerships for public purpose, so I think that's a nice way of sort of reframing PPPs. But what are the right instruments to help move the private sector in all of its different manifestations, as we discussed yesterday, big and small, and everything in between, to incentivize healthy foods and disincentivize unhealthy foods? And I think that area of understanding markets, understanding policy interventions to influence markets, and how we can shape those is really a huge, huge priority. So, turning to a few thank yous, I think Joe did a brilliant vote of thanks this morning, so I won't cover everything, but it's been really excellent to have had the support of the National Institute of Nutrition. I know that the IFPRI South Asia office has done phenomenal work to help with the logistics and help get everybody here, so we're really grateful for that. There's a huge number of people who've been involved behind the scenes in the various committees, along with LSHTM and CGIAR A4NH programme. But a really big word of thanks to the Amana team, and particularly Joe and Sunita, for all their phenomenal work in organising a really excellent event once again. I think it's been brilliant. Thank you. I don't know where you are. Joe's hiding down there, and Sunita's hiding down there. But above all, a big thank you to all of you for your kind of commitment and your engagement, for staying through a long week and a very intense week, but a very productive week. I think Purnima Menon on Tuesday talked about nutrition ghostbusters, and she issued a call to all of us to be nutrition ghostbusters, making sure our research is actionable, that we engage with policymakers on findings. So I think you're all great nutrition ghostbusters. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.